Lords, knights, and squires, I return. The snowstorm out here on the East Coast delayed me a bit, but I wouldn't leave you, even if you wanted me to. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, Episode 2. What did we get? We got Steely Pate, a little more subdued than his audible counterpart. But that was the great Harry Lloyd, and I have to stop comparing them to him. But that's just me. The biggest changes I've seen in the second episode is the tourney being set at night, Sir Arlen's wound on his arm, and the arsehole to a lance hole conversation. These things definitely work for the show, though. I didn't listen to the book in the last week or so, but if I remember correctly, the tournament wasn't set at night, it was during the day, and they called a halt to the jousting for that day due to something that happens to a horse that we will see in episode 3, I have no doubt. But the lighting looks good. It flowed with the scene they set up, so I have no issues. Colorful armor and great designs in this scene as well. You do see the look on Dunk's face when it starts, though, and he realizes that this will be him tomorrow. And he doesn't seem too excited about it right away. He spends the beginning of the episode talking to all the lords about Ser Arlan, trying to get someone to remember him so they might vouch for Dunk, but with no luck. Not in the book. He came through a secret passageway to come out in front of the hall where the princes were talking. Then he had to deal with Gwen Ashford, who didn't have a name or speaking line in the book. He's spotted by Maekar and is forced to come into the room and plead his case to Baelor and the others. The difference in this scene is that he is aware of whom he's talking to and straight up asks Baelor if he remembers Arlen because of the story he was told as a kid. Straight from the text, "We broke 4 lances before I finally unhorsed him." Only Dunk says in the book 7, and that was against the Prince of Dragonstone, like he didn't know who he was currently talking to. But it makes sense in the show that he saw them on the way in, and he would realize that at least one of them was Baelor. He is thick as a castle wall, which we got one of those this episode, if you're counting. Now we get Florian and Jonquil, where we saw Serwyn of the Mirror Shield in the first episode. Again, we have a much more elaborate play design than what is described in the books, which of course just shows better on screen and is much more exciting to watch. Egg's knowledge of pollen making fire grow suggests some Targaryen scare tactics they've used since the death of the dragons. It reminded me that Aegon IV, the Unworthy and Egg's grandfather, built wooden dragons that were supposed to spit fire. Since at that time, and this, all the dragons are dead, he built fake ones to continue his family's rule by fear. They didn't work, however, being cumbersome to move around the forests and up and down hills, and they caught fire themselves, and the invasion never happened, but I don't remember hearing anything about pollen in the books. Random, though, maybe for another video, but during the tug-of-war scene, I saw a few random black people in the background. Do we think they are from the Summer Isles or House Valerian? Let me know in the comments. Can't establish random stuff in a connected show and not want me to ask questions about it. I like this episode, and we are progressing nicely on track and building to all the key points. Ending the episode with a mention of the Blackfyre feels like we are going to get more of that in coming episodes. It didn't feel like a one-off comment. Of course, that refers to the Blackfyre Rebellion, where a bastard of the king,
Aegon IV, Daemon, was given a Targaryen ancestral sword, Blackfyre,
rebelled because he was viewed as a more legitimate king than Aegon's trueborn heir, who happens to be on the throne at the time of this show. Daeron II fought his half-brother for the throne in that rebellion, not personally, but with his army. So the wounds are still fresh for everyone.
It was actually about 13 years ago at this point.
So we may see it in flashbacks, but we should see one of the 5 rebellions in season 3. So they're important. Looking ahead to the next episode, we should get a lot more Aerion, maybe a little more Villar, some Lionel Baratheon and other knights, but a bunch more Aerion. And we should be ending off with the action sequence that kicks off the second half of the show and the plot. You know what I mean? All in all, a great episode. Not too much of a breakdown. If you watched the first video, I was pretty ready for everything we saw here, and I have a feeling it will be the same for the next one. That's why I don't want to get too much in depth here. There's a lot more to talk about coming up. Like and subscribe for more, or I'll give you a clout on the ear.